Hello everybody! We're here today with a new video. Today we're doing a video about Ryan Hillegas, mainly because he's getting talked about a lot, especially in the Zellner motion. But before I go into that, I wanted to go ahead and give a shout out to some of my friends that have helped me do some of the research here. First off, I want to give a shout out to G, and I call her G because she's so gangsta. Actually, I don't call her G, but I think I'm going to start now. So, also, I'd like to give thanks to Carrie Tyrese and Michael Bowie and a few others who I don't want to name because I don't know if they would like me to mention them or not. So out of respect, I won't. Some of you may be noticing right now that the sound quality is quite a bit better on my video. Well, there's a reason for that. It's called an equipment upgrade. I went and got myself a mic that is really, really good, actually. So, and I plan to do other like equipment upgrades coming up. You know, in the next month or so. I'd like to eventually get a different camera, improve the picture quality. So anyways, that's basically, I just want to let everybody know that I am trying to improve it. I'm just new to this YouTube thing, and I've only just started out. So hopefully, within the next month or two, I'll have a better production quality. So moving on. Today we're going to talk about Ryan Hillegas. I know all of you have already been hearing all about the Zellner motion and hearing about the fact that he was contacted by law enforcement on November 4th, the day before the RAV4 was found, that he was contacted 22 or 24 times by law enforcement or something like that, and that he was also on the Avery property multiple times, signed into the Avery property multiple times when the investigation was happening, when it was closed to the public. So these are just odd things on top of everything else about him, which we'll get into here. So anyways, I won't go into any more of that, what was in Zellner's motion, because I'm pretty sure all of you have already got it from Casey Martinez or Johnny or Laura Keck. So those three, all three of them did pretty long videos on the Zellner motion, so I'm going to just let that be and know that you guys have all been informed. So anyways, the thing that's weird about this is how was Ryan Hillegas never a suspect? Because in every other murder investigation, he would have been the first person they look at. He would be the first guy that they would suspect. That's like murder investigation rulebook, page 1. Look at the husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, lover, whatever. Look to those places first, because most of the time, really most of the time, 9 times out of 10, they end up either knowing something, they did it, or know something about it, whether or not they were involved. So that's why those people get looked at, and this guy was virtually not looked at. It's made even more suspect by the fact that when you look at the pictures I'm about to show you of this guy's hands, right when this was all happening, when he was the leader of the search party, you're going to see these strange, what look like claw marks on one hand, and you're going to see some looks like really bad bruising on his right hand, on his like pinky of his right hand and stuff. So I'm going to put that up here right now so you guys can see that. I know some of you have probably already seen these pics. I apologize. This is for the people who are just coming in, have just finished the documentary, and have never seen these before. So here we go. Okay, now that's Ryan's hands, how the way they looked. I mean, you make your own judgments there. So, anyways, now we're going to move on to the deleted voicemails. And Ryan being able to print up Teresa's cell phone record. I mean, okay. Anyway, it never really made much sense to me. I mean, I get it that maybe he was able to guess the password with the help of, like, some of her friends, and that it was like something to do with her sisters or something. Okay, fine. But then he says they made up a username that worked. Made up a username? What? I mean, what the heck is going on here? I mean, they're doing an awful lot of guessing here and getting it right on something that was supposed to be fairly secure, right? So this is fishy. This is him getting access into that is just fishy to me. You add to that Mike Hallbach, who him and Mike were buddy-buddy during all this, Mike Halbach actually admits to having the information to be able to get into her cell phone records. He actually admits that he did get in there and check a couple voicemails, but that he didn't delete anything. Okay. Well, maybe, Ryan Hillegas used his considerable powers of password and username guessing, and he somehow accessed it. But clearly somebody did. Because when you think about it, these voicemails, they were only really vulnerable from one place, or to two people. And that would be Mike Halbach and Ryan Hillegas. So there's very, very little else that could explain it. Those voicemails getting deleted when they did. So that's basically how that goes. So I'm going to show you the document right here of from the trial that shows Ryan Hillegas talking about printing up that call list for Wiegert in a Fassbender. So here it is. Okay, so here we have Ryan Hillegas testifying. He says, it was in the afternoon, I believe, around 3 o'clock, and he goes over and meets up with Scott because Teresa's dad and him went over, where Teresa might be and stuff like that. Basically trying to dig up any information, calling her friends, and they found a list of her friends on her computer, and they started calling all those numbers to try and find out where she might be. And then they printed off, her cell phone records off the internet just to see what calls she had made or what friends that, they might want to look at. So then Krat stops him and says, just let me stop you. How does that occur? How did you do that? And Ryan begins to explain, well, there was a couple of us there, figuring it out. And they basically figured out the password and made up a username, whatever that means. And then the phone records printed right off. And, so that's how that goes. It's awfully fishy, though. How do you just make up a username? I don't know. Okay, now we're going to talk about Ryan getting himself inserted into the position as like the search party leader. Clearly he had to, portray himself as somebody that knew Teresa pretty well to get into that position, in my opinion, because they wouldn't want to just make, somebody who didn't know her very well in that position or didn't know who her friends were and all these people that were coming up. It makes sense, okay? So, but here's the thing, if he's so close to her, he's so, in her life or whatever, but yet he can't even remember really most of what he talked about with her in the last conversation that he had with her on the 30th. And he's not even able to say what time of day. I mean, he can't even say whether it was day or night. He can't even say whether or not the freaking sun was out or whether it was dark. I mean, that's pretty ridiculous. You can't even tell if it was dark or light outside when you were somewhere, when you were talking to somebody. It's just strange, just really odd. So the fact that he's the leader of the search party brings me to the next thing here. They were on November 4th. He says it and I'm going to show you the document here. On November 4th, he says in the court transcripts that they were only putting flyers up on November 4th. That all the people were coming and they were just handing out flyers and everybody was going around and canvassing everything with the flyers with Teresa's picture on it and all that stuff. So that's what he claims everybody was doing on the 4th. However, him being the leader of the search party is why I bring this up, because who else might this person that I'm about to bring up gotten direction from other than a leader of the search party? Who is Ryan, or possibly the Halbachs, who would have been fed the information by the police. But anyways, what happens is on the 4th, David Beach and his sister, who are cousins of the Halbachs, head into the Mishkat Two Rivers area. They say they were just going into those two areas because the family had told them that in those two areas is where she was kind of last seen. However, I have a document that says that they were actually going and they were looking for the towing places. So that's how they ended up at Avery Salvage. And then after they left Avery, after talking to Stephen, and they left Avery Salvage, and he says they went on to a different towing place. So it strikes me as odd, but it also strikes me that somebody could have said, you know what, why don't you go check out the towing places and see if anybody picked up her car somewhere. But the fact of the matter is why are only these two people searching on November 4th when everybody else is putting up flyers? And why is it that they got pretty much directed, whether it was slyly or not, by suggesting going to tow yards, but they got suggested somewhere to go and ended up right at the Avery property. I mean, and talked to Stephen himself. So that is odd. And it seems to me that it came down possibly from Ryan, or at least and then if it didn't come from Ryan, then it came from law enforcement, essentially. And that shows their prejudice, that they were basically pointing this whole thing in one direction and just ignoring Ryan. So I'm going to go ahead and show you right now the court transcripts of Ryan talking about on November 4th. All they were doing was putting up flyers and canvassing, towns and neighborhoods and putting up the flyers. And then I'm also going to show you the report of David Beach and what went down on November 4th when him and his sister went to Avery Salvage. So here it is coming up. Okay, so this first part just talks about what I was saying about Ryan, that he's testifying that on the 4th everybody was instructed to be going around and putting up flyers. So, and they were canvassing neighborhoods and stuff like that to put up the flyers, and there was just all kinds of them, and people were coming to the house and picking up stacks of them and whatever. And yet for some reason, two people out of all these people were suddenly off trying to find Teresa, actually searching. So it's just odd that two people would be, and if two people are going to go off on their own, most likely they get the direction from the leader of that search. So that's basically what I think about that. Then it leads into this next part, where it's the report by Dettering, where he calls David Beach to ask him about, that day. And he basically says that they were heading north. They were instructed to head north into the Mishicot Two Rivers area because that's where she was working that day. And then they end up at Avery's Auto Salvage. They talk to Stephen. And then for some reason they leave there and go to another salvage yard over in Maribel. Who gave them the idea of that? That's what I'm wondering. Who planted the idea in their head to go to tow yards? Because essentially they were originally given very little direction, and then suddenly they found their way right to the Avery salvage yard. And I think whoever did it was really sly about it. They were just like, oh, hey, why don't you go see if her car got towed somewhere? But they're not even claiming that somebody told them that. So it's a little bit odd that they're not claiming anybody told them that. So, but they clearly did get that idea somewhere, because that's what they were doing. Thought that was interesting. Okay, so now moving on from that, we'll move on to Pam Sturm showing up on November 5th and wanting to search the salvage yard, wanting to try to go search the salvage yard. Now, the weird thing here is that of all the searchers, he lends her a camera and gives her a direct number to Sheriff Poggle. He didn't give anybody else that. So what would explain it? Well, what would explain it is that he had an intimate knowledge of the situation, and he knew that he wanted a camera in there, and he wanted whoever was there to have a direct line to Sheriff Poggle, right? That's what that means, because he didn't give that to anybody else. When that kind of gives it away. So, anyways, moving on. It's just with that happening with Pam Sturm, and realizing how he clearly seemed to have some kind of intimate knowledge of the situation. How can it seems pretty probable that he is the one that prodded David Beach and his sister to go look at tow yards, possibly. I'm thinking that's probably might have been the instructions that those two were given. Because in the report you just saw, even though they originally had said in reports that they were just told to head north, in the report I just showed you, you clearly see that David Beach had decided somehow that they were going to go check out tow yards. So that's just odd. And like I say, Ryan was the leader, the coordinator of the search party. So that's why he gets to be suspect in this. So on top of all the other stuff about Ryan that just really just makes me shake my head. So anyways, now I'm going to show you basically the document where Ryan says he didn't know Pam, he never met her, knew who the heck she was, but when she showed up, he lent her a camera and gave her the phone number for Sheriff Poggle. So here we go. Okay, here is where Ryan testifies that you know, Pam Sturm and her daughter Nicole came up, and they on Saturday morning when pretty much everybody else had left, and you know, and then he's asked, you know, after that first wave, if you will, of citizens got their maps and whatever, what did you and Pam discuss? And he said, well, Pam was, you know, pretty much with, you know, there after the whole group of everybody left, and everything had been divvied up. Good portion, everything had already been assigned and stuff. And she basically came out and just said that she wanted to go to the Avery salvage yard, of course. And we just said no, that we hadn't been sending anybody in there. But she offered and said she was willing to go and get permission, whatever, so to get in there. Then, you know, of course, well, there's a, you know, an objection. Kratz basically says, okay, I'll ask it a different way then, you know, whatever. Pam eventually does go, of course, we all know that. And then we all know also that Ryan lends her a camera and gives her the phone number to reach Sheriff Poggle pretty much directly. So, and she's the only one given that, so, you know, it's pretty obvious, I think, that for Ryan to give her the camera and the phone number because she was going there, he knew what was there because he didn't give that to anybody else. I mean, it's pretty darn obvious. So she says led by God. I say this, Pam, God didn't lend you a camera and give you Sheriff Poggle's phone number. Okay, this next thing I'm going to show you is not fact. It's not confirmed fact, but I'm putting it in as hearsay because when you couple it together with all of the other shady stuff around Ryan, I think it's a good possibility that it really happened. So, this is not, I'm not offering this as a fact. I'm offering this as possibly very, valid hearsay, possibly. Anyways. Okay, like I said, I'm just adding this in because it kind of just, you know, goes along with all this other shady stuff. Ryan denies that this ever happened, so this is just hearsay, but, you know, somebody claims that this happened, so I just thought that was interesting. Okay, so now I want to talk about Ryan's demeanor on the stand. It was, you know, it's kind of disturbing the way he acted, really. I'm going to play a clip for you here about something called duping delight. It's from a TED Talk. It's going to be still shots and audio because I didn't want to infringe on them, obviously. So, but pay attention because it's very important, and it displays something that Ryan displayed on the stand big time.
They're red flags. We're human beings. We make deceptive, flailing gestures all over the place all day long. They don't mean anything in and of themselves. But when you see clusters of them, that's your signal. Look, listen, probe, ask some hard questions, get out of that very comfortable mode of knowing, walk into curiosity mode, ask more questions, have a little dignity, treat the person you're talking to with rapport. Don't try to be like those folks on Law and Order and those other TV shows that pummel their subjects into submission. Don't be too aggressive. It doesn't work. Now, we've talked a little bit about how to talk to someone who's lying and how to spot a lie. And as I promised, we're now going to look at what the truth looks like. And I'm going to show you two videos. Two mothers, One is lying, one is telling the truth. And these were surfaced by researcher David Matsumoto in California. And I think they're an excellent example of what the truth looks like. This mother, Diane Downs, shot her kids at close range, drove them to the hospital while they bled all over the car, claimed a scraggy-haired stranger did it. And you'll see when you see the video, she can't even pretend to be an agonizing mother. What you want to look for here is an incredible discrepancy between horrific events that she describes and her very, very cool demeanor. And if you look closely, you'll see duping delight throughout this video.
But at night, when I close my eyes, I can see Christy reaching her hand out to me while I'm driving, and the blood just keep coming out of her mouth. And that, maybe it'll fade too with time, but I don't think so. That haunts me the most.
And after telling that story, this is the look on Diane Downs' face. It's quite amazing. But anyways, Ryan has a similar look. So, okay, so I want to go ahead and give TED Talks their plug. I'd like for everybody to go check out that video if possible. I'm going to go ahead and leave the link for it in the information below, so that you all can go check it out and give it a view. It's really worth it. It's a good one. A lot of TED Talks are that way anyways. I love that. I love TED Talks. They're really, really informative. So, moving on, we go on to this woman, Diane Downs here. So she's basically claiming that some scraggly-haired stranger came in and shot her kids, but not her. Didn't do anything to her. And then like left or whatever. And then she's driving her kids to the hospital or whatever, and she's talking about her daughter and the coughing blood and whatever, and you know, horribly tragic event. And she's just kind of saying it matter-of-factly, and then after a bit of an awkward silence, smiles. Yeah, that's essentially the epitome of duping delight. That's duping delight right there. And you're going to see right here in a couple pictures that I'm going to show you that Ryan Hillegas is displaying it big time at the trial. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead. The second picture is him smiling as he's as he's talking about printing up that cell phone, that call list, and guessing that username and stuff like that. That's the second picture, is him smiling while he's saying that, just so you know. So here we have Ryan with a bit of a dupe smirk, kind of, you know, it's kind of just a smirk, not a full-on smile. But then we get to the part here where he's describing making up a username and that or whatever. Now here he is just, it's like he's just totally amusing himself. He is just like having a blast right there. And anyways, that is just, I don't understand it. This is his friend that is dead. Okay, so we're almost done here now. If I want to, go ahead and ask anybody who, enjoys my videos to please subscribe. That's one thing you can do for a YouTuber that helps them out a lot, actually, and doesn't cost you anything. So if you're interested, go ahead. Basically, the last thing I want to offer here is a really, really great video. It's called "The Legitimacy of the Finding of the Hallbeck Vehicle." I'll leave the link for it in the information down below, of course. It's a great video. It starts out with these two kids lying to their mommy. It's adorable, but it also has a point. It shows them lying to their mommy, and it shows the way that they're acting while doing it. Okay. After that, it cuts over to the news interview with Mike Hallbach and Ryan Hillegas when Ryan and Mike are denying ever being on the Avery salvage property, which we all know that Ryan was. So, anyways, it shows them talking to these reporters, and you see them displaying the same aspects as these two kids that were lying to their mommy. Okay, so I just want to suggest everybody go take a look at that. If you know the video I'm talking about and you've seen it before and you think you're good, great. If not, go have another look at it. I love going back and looking at that video every once in a while just because it's so poignant. Anyway, it's a really great video. Like I said, I'll leave the link below. Please go check it out, because I would love for that video maker to get some credit. So, thank you very much. I will be making another Ryan Hillegas video at some point. So if any of you want to, give me a suggestion of something you think, some aspect of the Ryan Hillegas thing, you know, whatever, go ahead and leave it in the comments here in the video. I always read the comments. I will respond to everybody who leaves a comment, just so you know. And thank you very much for watching.